Noble citizens of the globe, welcome back to another episode of the Noble Citizens Podcast. As always, I'm Che. We got Jaede.
Hi, y'all.
We talking about framing Britney Spears. Stay tuned. We gonna get it one more again.
Yup.
The Vince Lombardi Trophy is staying in Tampa Bay. Tom Brady, Super Bowl champion for the 7th time.
I want to start with a documentary that's making an impact right now, and all of you saw it last night, Framing Britney Spears. It looks at the legal battle over her father being co-conservator over her finances and personal affairs, and how she was scrutinized and sexualized in the public eye.
Timberlake posting on Instagram Friday, "I am deeply sorry for the times in my life where my actions contributed to the problem, where I spoke out of turn or did not speak up for what was right," saying, "I specifically want to apologize to Britney Spears and Janet Jackson both individually because I care for and respect these women and I know I failed." The apology referring to incidents taking place almost 20 years ago and addressing both misogyny and racism following years of criticism for cultural appropriation.
Leave Britney alone!
I'll start this off by saying happy Valentine's Day to all the lovers out there.
Happy Valentine's Day.
It's the 14th again, and if you have a lover, cherish them. Do whatever you can before you lose them. And if you don't, well, hey, be single by your bad self.
Love yourself.
But what she saying? Saturday Night Live. I could B&B by myself at my Airbnb. So yeah, happy Valentine's Day. Hopefully you enjoyed it, or you're going to enjoy it whatever time you're listening to this at. It's gonna be a good time.
It is.
So just to recap, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers won the Super Bowl.
Sadly.
And Jade's, she's not too happy because her favorite guy, Tom Brady, is just, too successful for her liking. So
Favorite being the word of sarcasm.
He got a little drunk.
A little bit.
He got a little drunk, throwing around Lombardi trophies. I mean, like people were like, when they saw that, they're like, "Damn, he could really just throw around this trophy." Like, the people worked the whole year, worked their whole lives to get, and then it's just he tossed around. He's got 7 of them now. So even like I saw the video and I was like, imagine if they would have dropped that, it would have went in the ocean. Who was diving for it? Like, first off, who's diving for it, and who is sober enough to actually like retrieve it? Is my question.
Actually, he also mentioned, I saw in an article about it, that I guess when he tweeted a video or put on Instagram the video of him throwing it from his angle,
yeah,
you can hear his daughter in the background saying, "No, Daddy, no."
Well, clearly, somebody had to have some kind of decorum.
Rationale, yeah.
She was the only sober person on the boat. Let me drive the boat. But Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl. I mean, before in the past, I had my, I didn't like Tom Brady, obviously. Me being a Giants fan, as I've expressed the last episode. I don't like Tom Brady, but I respect him. I respect his work ethic. I respect that he's still in the game at 43, going on 44, still winning titles. So he's just, he's undeniably the GOAT. I was one of the dudes that said that he was a system quarterback and that he would not be successful outside the Patriots, and he proved he proved the people like me wrong. So you know what? I'm going to shut up. He's the GOAT. I mean, I ain't got nothing to say. Nothing else to say. There's no, hey, they're in, like, you can't argue that. It is what it is.
I can't, my arguments are definitely not about his football. It's just something about him. I don't know. That just doesn't sit well,
So some people, I feel like some people are on your page because like I feel like some people think that he's like he puts on this demeanor and he's like he's just like a well scripted,
like this like facade of like
painted,
this perfect football playing. Just I don't know. There's something about him that just doesn't seem like real. Like
I feel like, that skepticism.
It's a little inauthentic.
It's like something ain't right there. Something it's a little too perfect.
Right.
Like what's going on? Like I feel like something might unfold later down the road. As for right now, he's the perfect GOAT. He's the perfect star child America has. And that's what we got. You know, Gronk is still Gronk. You know, he's had an amazing
He's like
career.
the perfect frat boy.
Amazing sidekick to Tom. You know, still slow, but that's how we love him. So congratulations to the Bucks on winning their second Super Bowl. So last episode, while we were talking about the Super Bowl, we happened to mention Justin Timberlake.
We did. Just very randomly, actually.
I mean, because we were talking about halftime shows, right?
And performances, yes, we were. Yeah.
And you know, if anybody knows me, I'm a Justin Timberlake fan. Like that's my dude right there. Like ever since NSYNC days when Jaede was in her tween years, screaming and crying and doing whatever, and I was just introduced to that music, you know, because of her. And you know, Justin, that's my boy, man. That's the white boy with soul right there.
Indeed.
He could just, you know,
He's got that Memphis in him.
he's got that Memphis. That's my dude right there. So, yeah, it's funny that we were talking about Justin, and just, you know, recently he was brought up because Britney Spears kind of went viral over the past week and a half.
Yes.
Because there's an episode of, I think it's a Hulu show called like the New York Times or something.
New York Times Presents.
Yeah, New York Times Presents. And then there's the episode, I think it's 6, and framing Britney Spears. And then there was a lot of, you know, social media talk about, you know, people blaming Justin and hitting him up and, you know, kind of like, you know, putting the downs. I mean, do I call it a downfall of Britney Spears? Like,
I would say that in the way that it was kind of brought about was that his actions after their breakup led to kind of more fire under her belt, if you will, for you know, people kind of being interested in what she was doing, and paparazzi, and, you know, people asking her questions in interviews and making her cry and things like that. Just people being prying more into her life after that because of his actions. I think that's what they were trying to portray in the episode, was that, you know, his actions sort of weaponized her as being the bad guy in the relationship, that it had to be something that she did, you know, to invoke all of what he did, you know, put out a song that kind of, you know, had somebody that looked like her in the video, and there was a narrative surrounding that he didn't deny, right? He never, you know, came out and said, oh no, you know, I'm just being an artist and, you know, doing what I do. It was very much left to people's interpretation, and people interpreted it as it was her fault. She did something. She's the bad person. She cheated on him, and which we really don't know the story. We only know assumptions and maybe, you know, what other people have said, right?
right.
So we felt like that was Justin's statement in, you know, this is what happened. And then because she didn't refute it or say her side, people just believe that to be true.
Okay.
When we really don't know.
Because there was never really like a response from Britney Spears,
Right.
like between song or interview or anything like that, right?
Right. And I think because it looked bad, people also added on to the Janet Jackson part of things, to where in a similar fashion, you know, we watched that ESPY's intro performance where he kind of makes light of the situation with Janet Jackson.
Yeah.
And, you know, Janet got banned from performing here, there, and everywhere. And people looked at her as if she was like the bad guy in the situation. It was her fault. She should have done something different. She's the one that was lewd on TV, whatever. When it was hit, I mean, he's the one that ripped it off. Yet he continued to perform and work, and people weren't mad at him. And, you know, society just kind of went on with him just being happy and talented and moving forward.
Right.
And she was the one who kind of reaped the punishment for that whole situation. So I think because it was kind of like the same, here are two women that were involved with situations with Justin Timberlake, that both of them were almost demonized for their part in that relationship, when really, I mean, he had a part in it too, I'm sure, you know, in both parts.
So it wasn't really, you know, I mean, obviously, you know, Justin, for these people who are upset about, you know, Janet and Britney,
Right.
Justin's the one to blame. But really, I feel like it's society. It's the construct of how things appear, and expectations, and just how we view men and women, how we treat men and women.
Right. And
really.
I think it's his inaction, right? Just recently, he's come out since,
Oh, well, that
the
too.
whole uproar,
Yeah.
And said and apologized through an Instagram post and kind of said, I understand that misogyny is out there and racism, and I'm a privileged white man, and I have benefited from the downfall of a couple other women that I care about. But some people are saying it's a little too little too late. It's been years since these things have happened, and never has he said, stood up and been like, all right, I apologize to Janet Jackson. I am the one who, I see that this is happening, and these two women have been mistreated, when it comes to these situations. He hasn't said anything. I think it's his inaction to do what's right or say something to kind of correct the situation is why people are upset. It's not that it's his fault or, he's the bad guy, but it's just the fact that he should have kind of protected them in a way and stood up for them.
Yeah. Because how people like came for Justin, and that was really like the first. That was really my first hearing of this episode, was that people are blaming Justin for like Britney's her hard times. And watching the episode, like we talked about, they didn't really show a lot with Justin in it.
It was very
like,
quick.
The only thing was that, they talked about it. They showed the Cry Me a River clip. And then the only thing was that they had the radio interview that the dude was like, all right, so tell me, did you hit that? And then he was like, and I did it. And that was literally, that was it.
And I feel like that's what people were mad at, is that he made light of the situations, and he, kind of like brushed it off his shoulders and went about his life, when these two women were hurt business-wise. When it comes to their reputation, they were hurt in certain ways, and he just went on and just was like, I'm going to make fun of it, and it's going to be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know my boy Justin is a good guy deep down. He came out, if you haven't seen on his Instagram, he posted I don't want to say it's an apology. It's more of like his owning his own actions or inactions, if you will. And obviously, it was response to, everybody, coming at him.
Yeah.
I just want to, explain, the episode for those who don't know what we're talking about.
Right.
So the New York Times presents it's like a show on Hulu. They came out with an episode called what was it?
Framing
Britney Spears, and it's pretty much just like recaps. Like it's kind of like a little bio, documentary. But the main focus is pretty much on her conservatorship, and pretty much like the hard time she's had to go through, like, and probably around like mid 2000s area, when like shit started to get rough for her.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of don't get why like the majority of like we're mad at somebody for Britney, and immediately went to Justin when there's I guess there's a protesters about with Britney's dad and the conservatorship, and then there's also like Kevin Federline, like, and ain't nobody had to say nothing about him, like.
Right. There's a lot of players in that whole situation, and I think the Justin Timberlake thing was just kind of underlying from years ago. I think Britney fans were mad at him from back then. Janet Jackson fans were mad at him back then. And it's just something that's been unresolved until finally it erupted and kind of like, oh, everybody remember this? Remember how he didn't? And that kind of erupted. But I think even still to this day, in this moment, I think people, though it was a great apology or a great, ownership or accountability for his inaction or lack thereof, like, I think people still aren't forgiving him. And I think the reason is, number one, because I saw a lot of people that did support him in what he said, but a lot of people still were like, I don't think that's enough. And I think it's because, yes, it took this long for it to happen. It took something like that coming out for it to happen. In addition, people are also saying it was posted on Instagram. Any publicist could write a good apology, accountability, whatever. They need to see him say it, like, his actual face saying the words.
Right.
And other people are saying, well, in the apology or the whatever you want to call it, accountability post, he says, you know, he wants to take active steps to continue rectifying the situation, right? He wants to be a part of change and making sure that the white men in the entertainment industry recognize their privilege and don't abuse it, right? He makes mention of that. And I think people want to see him actually do the work, do the actions. Okay, you recognize that you were wrong and that you failed in not standing up for these women that you love or loved. And I want to actually see you back it up and do something about it.
Yeah, it's one thing to talk about it, but
Exactly.
you know.
Exactly. So I don't think people will forgive him until he actually does what he says he's going to do.
Yeah, and I think he will. You know, I feel like that's just the kind of person that he is. So, do these paparazzi people like? Okay, I don't understand.
It's gross.
I don't understand like how people just don't like get restraining orders on like all of them, or like isn't there some fine line of the law that's like, all right, this is a little too much.
There are definitely some laws, and I think in other countries paparazzi is a lot worse than here. And I think especially when it comes to kids, I know there have been laws put together to protect the kids of celebrities and things like that. I mean, granted, paparazzi still they're out there, but I don't think they're like that. When we watch Britney and they're like all over her, like literally on top of her, right? In her face. I feel like, I don't know if there have been any laws put into place to protect the celebrities from like that sort of mob. Right. But, yeah, they're still out there. They're not as prevalent as they were maybe in the early 2000s, but they're definitely still working and selling photos.
I never, you know, paid attention to any kind of paparazzi, you know, as far as a career, as far as like a job. I never like, you know, thought about it in my head, like what it entails in terms of like what you do, where you go, like who you work with, how you get paid and whatnot. And so I always looked at paparazzi like, why y'all just being annoying? Like, why y'all really doing the most just for like these little, you know, Inquirer, you know,
right.
These pop magazines, whatever. But then I realized, because they said in the thing is that they were getting paid up to $1 million a picture. I'm like, what?
Oh yes. Back then, and you have to remember, at that time, social media wasn't a thing, right?
So
in the early 2000s,
magazines were the only things
that
was
the only way that people are going to get that information. So people flocked to magazines back then. Yeah. And so the cost of a photo of somebody doing something crazy, and that's the thing. I think the whole approach is to get you to react, right? Because you're in this high pressure situation where there's people all around you. They're asking you a million questions and there's light bulbs flashing in your face. It's to get you to react so they can capture something that will get them the money, right? And I think back then it was a lot more valuable. And that's the reason why they were so crazy and on top of everybody, is that the one picture could get you tons of money. It can make you rich.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Because I never like fathomed that you can make that much just off one picture.
Yeah.
Like how they showed in that one part, the dude, like the actual photographer dude that they had interview for the show, and he was telling his story because him and some other dude got the shot where I think they said they went to like a Jiffy Lube or something, and then
it was like they followed
a gas
her.
station or whatever.
Yeah, they followed her to Kevin Federline's house. This was 2007, after she shaved her head. Right. They followed her to Kevin Federline's house, where allegedly she wanted to see her kids. Kevin Federline wouldn't let her in the door, and they continued to follow her. And then finally, she got fed up with it. They went to a Jiffy Lube. That's when she got out and kind of like took the umbrella and attacked his car. And this was the paparazzi whose car that she attacked with the umbrella. Yeah. And the fact that he could look at the camera honestly and say, oh, I thought she liked it. I thought she liked us being there.
Come on.
I never knew that, you know, she didn't want us around. She would tell us don't be there for the day, but that just meant the day. I didn't know that she meant forever. Like, the fact that they're so delusional, like, how can you not know that somebody wouldn't want to be swarmed every single where they go?
They ain't delusional. They're just justifying it. They're just like, they know what they're doing. They know she don't like it, but they don't care. They're getting $1 million for this picture. You think they're gonna take her? You think they're gonna take $1 million a girl with $1 million in the bank singing her feelings into consideration.
True. I mean, it could be now that definitely if they're continuing to be paparazzi, in their mind, I'm sure they have to justify their actions in some way. That's true.
Yeah, because he kind of, I mean, not to say that he's a bad guy, but he kind of tried to put himself in like a good light, like, oh, I never wanted to be a paparazzi. I always saw myself as a filmmaker, but once you get in that life, it sucks you in and it's hard to get out. It's like, bro, like, don't act like this is a drug addiction. Like, bro, you saw that this is an opportunity to get a lot of money and you went for it. I mean, I guess, do you, right? Like everybody needs to get theirs how they get it, right? But don't try to pass it off as like, oh, I thought, I was just trying to do what I thought, I thought she liked it. Okay,
I cared about her. I just asked her how she was.
I get it that she may have liked it in the beginning, because in the beginning when they started, really following her around, she was smiling and she was getting food and it was like, oh, party in my house, yeah.
I think, and I don't even think she liked it then, to be honest. I think if this is your situation, right? You're famous, world renowned. Everybody knows who you are. You have to kind of get by some way, right? And it's better to get by with honey than vinegar sometimes. And if you're nice and you smile and you make light, I mean, that's the only way. You can't take it back now. You're already famous. Everybody already knows who you are. So you have to live in some way. So I don't think it's necessarily that she liked it. I think it's just that she had to make
she tolerated it.
She tolerated it. She smiled and laughed and talked to them to maybe get them to see her as a human being, which at the end of the day, they just saw her as a paycheck.
It's like after all that time of like, following her around and she's covering her face and she's just trying to like get in the car. She does not look like she's having like a great time. Like, you honestly going to say that like, we thought she like, we care about her a lot. She never told us she didn't like it. Like, come on, dude. Like, you know.
Yeah. And I think when it comes to celebrities and that sort of light, I think there's a reason, even in this show, why we don't necessarily talk about celebrities' personal lives, if you will. Like, we'll talk about kind of situations that, are around their careers and things like that. But we don't necessarily dig into, like, who's dating who and, like, that drama. Because, I mean, these are human beings. Like, this is their life, and they don't owe us anything. And if they choose to tell us, that's their business. But it's not our business to pry, and it's not our business to find out the details and whatever. These are human beings. And I think at the end of the day, the Britney story is tragic because she was this person who you could tell had a dream and was just kind of this genuine, bubbly, lighthearted girl who just kind of loved to dance and sing.
Cute little girl from Kentwood, Louisiana.
Exactly.
With a twinkle in her eye.
The light, I mean, okay, I've watched Britney since she came out, all right? I was in my prime preteen years back then,
Late 90s.
1998. Yeah, 98, when she came out with Baby One More Time. I remember watching TRL. I remember the video premiering, okay? And just thinking, oh my God, this is so good. This girl's cute. She's oh my God, she's amazing. And I remember when Christina Aguilera came out, I was like, she wants to be Britney.
They all came from the same show.
Little did I know at that point.
They're all little Mouseketeers.
I grew to quickly love Christina too. Anyway, but like, I feel like back then she was just like this fun-loving girl. It was like this girl next door. Everybody wanted to know. Every guy wanted to be with, that kind of girl. And at the same time, there was this kind of like bubbly effervescence about her that you could tell, like, she was full of kind of like, she wants to get to know everybody and be nice to everybody. But slowly, as her career has progressed, that light, that effervescence has been drained, and it's sad.
Yeah.
Like, you watch her now, and I miss the old her, as far as that when she first started, who she was, and her kind of like wide-eyed, excitement to be in the position that she was. All of that was drained out of her by everybody around her and everybody in that situation, and it's sad.
I was thinking that too. I was like, she just doesn't look, or she doesn't, like, the vibe that comes off her is not the same as what it was before, and it's kind of bad.
Yeah.
Okay, so the major topic is this conservatorship.
Correct.
Between her and her dad, right? Now a conservatorship is when somebody that like takes control of like your assets, like or your whole life, or
right, pretty much. Like it's basically typically for older people who are vulnerable. So they're in a state maybe where they're not mentally always there, or they, can't handle money and living and things like that. So somebody has to take ownership of that to kind of fulfill all their duties, pay their bills, what an adult would do in normal life. If they're not capable of doing that, if they're, incompetent, if you will, to do all that, somebody will then take it over to make sure that everything is handled and correct and right. And typically it's for older people, right? People that maybe are in later stages in life who are vulnerable and might be even susceptible to people taking advantage of that situation and fraud and things like that.
Right.
So I guess after that 2007 situation, her dad became her conservator temporarily, and then eventually it led to a permanent conservatorship. And it's been, 12 years?
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
I didn't know it's been that long.
So from 2000, actually going on 13, because from 2008 till now.
So, so the conflict going on here is that, okay, from her dad's side, or at least like the family side, they feel like Britney is not well enough or not all there to take care of herself. And then to the fans, it's like, well, she's been working, she's been doing all this stuff, she's been doing her residency in Las Vegas. She's a working girl. It doesn't make sense to them that she can do that, but she's not like mentally there
capable,
to take care of herself and her own assets.
And along the way, she's been saying that she does not want her dad as her conservator. She would rather have a bank or some other sort of unbiased source be her
conflict of interest.
Right. Not her dad. And her dad has remained in that, capacity for 12 years now.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was that long. I thought it was just like recently that they did this. So what level of chance is there that Britney isn't all there to kind of take care of herself? Considering that we just talked about, this might be kind of like overseeing a little bit, but like we talked about how she had that light in the beginning and then it just kind of dwindled down, and then I don't want to assume too much, but it seemed like her mental state kind of suffered a blow or blows going down the years. So like, while the fans, they care about her, they want her to be the strong, independent woman, and they don't want her to be controlled by anybody. Like, what are the odds that this conservatorship is actually like really helping her, but nobody really knows that?
Right. See, that's what we don't know, right? That is unknown because nobody really knows her. I mean, all we know is what we used to see, right? And then what we see today. And what we see today, a lot of people think is a little strange, right? The kind of things that she posts on Instagram and things like that, they're not really, it almost seems cryptic in a way. Like the things that she posted, they're very controlled and they're not very kind of like real time. It's not like she goes into discussions about, it's just kind of like fun little TikTok things, and she'll post like quotes, and she'll post random pictures with like little quotes attached to it that could mean something else, or she could be alluding to something else. It's all very controlled. So we don't know what her mental state is. And you've noticed since this whole thing has come out, this episode, her boyfriend is the only one that said anything in relation to it. Nobody's heard from her. Like, has she talked to anybody without kind of somebody being her mouthpiece? Nobody's heard from her as far as her words, her opinion, her perspective. Her boyfriend spoke. But do we know what their relationship is like? No, we don't. So it's all assumption based on our perspective. I remember after, everything went down, the conservatorship became a thing, and she started working again after 2008. Yeah. And I remember her being on the X Factor. That was the first time that I actually heard her speak, I think. after that whole situation. And I remember that just sometimes she just seemed so out of it, right? Like she just seemed like she wasn't there, or she would make certain facial expressions that, you know, it almost seemed like she was medicated in a way, which mental health, I mean, back there in the 2000s, a lot of people didn't talk about mental health like they talk about it today, right? Depression and anxiety being things that, you know, are really important and need to be handled, and you can live a perfectly normal life but still have these things as something that you need to deal with. People didn't talk about that. Everybody just kind of looked at her like she was crazy, and or she's taking drugs or something. Everybody speculated the worst, if you will. But now it's sort of a different story, but we have no idea exactly what her situation is or what her state of mind is today. I remember looking at that and being concerned back then, and I'm still concerned now, to be quite honest with you. You know, we really don't know. So yes, I mean, in theory, a conservatorship is something that might help somebody who really is vulnerable. And I mean, we don't want people to steal her money. We don't want people to take advantage of her if she's in a vulnerable state. But at the same time, again, like the fans say, if she's working and she has the capacity to say, I don't want my dad to be my conservator, then at what state or at what point is she ever going to be free? You know, and the fact that that lawyer in the episode, she talks about the fact that in order to get out of a conservatorship, the person has to prove that they're mentally capable of doing so. But at the same time, it's a double-edged sword, because if your conservators are taking care of everything, including your healthcare, including your medicine, if they really don't want you to get out of the conservatorship, then how are you going to?
Right.
Like she has no control, if she's in that situation, over the kind of medicine that she gets, over the kind, and then this becomes like a scary Michael Jackson situation, right? Like it's I don't know. I don't know if she'll ever get out of it if people are in charge of everything. And I think that's why maybe in her mind she doesn't want her dad to be her conservator, because then he has skin in the game. You know what I'm saying? So it's really crazy, honestly.
Yeah, I found it like, you know, odd that when they were talking about this whole, you know, them going to court for Britney fighting her dad's conservatorship over her, they mentioned that, you know, she has lawyers, she's paying her lawyers, but at the same time she's paying her conservatorship's lawyers and, you know, her dad's lawyers, and et cetera, et cetera.
She's paying for everything.
Yeah, it's like she has to pay for herself to be. She has to pay like double for herself to be free. Almost.
Oh yeah. She has to pay for her voice to be heard, as well as the voices of the people who are in control of her or taking care of her, however you want to say it. It's bizarre.
I mean, these posts that I've seen of Britney, they're very strange.
Yeah.
It's like, you know how they say that when a celebrity, when they reach a certain amount of fame and success and then they live that certain lifestyle, and they say like whatever age that hit, they stay that age.
Yes, I've heard
for
that.
a long time.
I've heard that.
Like, so they never really grow up because they didn't live like a normal life to give you those hardships or give you like, you know, those life lessons and experiences for you to like really grow up like mentally and all that. I mean, not to say that they didn't have any hardships, because, you know, even though they're celebrities and even though they're rich, and to us they seem like they have the perfect life, I mean, everybody's going through something.
Clearly she went through a lot.
Everybody's going through something.
But it's not normal.
So that's what it looks like to me. Like when I see her like dancing and all that, like I feel like mentally she's still this little girl.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of weird, and that's pretty much what this conservatorship to me is holding her down to. Is just this, you know, this little, you know, daughter, you know, that teenage daughter or whatever that's just about to, you know, blow up, that's being taken care of.
Yeah. And you know what? I think throughout, you know, when she started kind of as an artist, you know, out of Louisiana, they had hopes for her. She was on Star Search and the Mickey Mouse Club and all that. A lot of people in the entertainment world say that they never really spoke to her dad Jamie Spears.
Yeah.
It always kind of handled all the situations through her mom. So I just wonder to myself, where was her mom? Why did her mom all of a sudden kind of like drop off everything? Because she had such a big hand in her career up until it seems 2007 to 2008. She just kind of like let go and the dad took over. So I wonder where her mom went. Why did she just kind of release all parts of participation and the dad took over? It's weird.
Unfortunately, in this story, we're restricted by the things that we don't know.
Right.
There's a lot of things that are behind the scenes that can answer a lot of questions, but we may not ever get those answers.
Man, and that whole thing with the Las Vegas residency, the second time that she was going to do it, and then everybody was waiting outside for her announcement, and then she just walks right on by.
That's just weird.
She walks through the crowd, leaves. People are like, where's the announcement? A week later, they say no residency. It's been canceled. And then a little while later, they say she's in some sort of mental health institution, rehab, whatever you want to call it.
Sus.
Then remember that podcast that does kind of like Britney's Graham conversations?
Yeah.
Then somebody called them telling them, oh, she's been in this whole mental institution or whatever it is for a while now. Not when they said that she was, but for a little bit. So it's all sus. It's all just like, what? And in addition to that, it's like when she makes these posts, a lot of them have to do with freedom. Like a lot of the content and the quotes that she uses has to do with like, dreaming and your freedom and liberation and all these kind of themes. Yeah. So you think to yourself, is it that she can't post what she wants? Is it that somebody's controlling the kind of things that she posts and that's the only thing that she can post? So she kind of like puts these subliminal, calls for help through these posts, or, we don't know what the situation is. It's very questionable.
It's just very strange.
Yeah. It's tragic.
Are they still in court? Are they still fighting this?
Yes. Well, recently, I think it was a couple days ago, they went to court, and as we know, last November, as they mentioned in the episode, her dad is not the only conservator now. Now there's another party in it called Bessemer, something of that sort.
Bessemer.
Yeah, it's kind of like this external source that has come in to help with the conservatorship. And I believe that recently, as of a couple days ago, her dad had objected to Bessemer being a part of the situation. He didn't want them in there. Mm. The court denied that, and Bessemer still stays. However, the court also denied Britney's call for, I don't want my dad to be the conservator. He's still there as well. So in a way, it's a victory because her dad was denied his objection, but he's still there and he's still a part of the situation. So it's a win, but it's not a total freedom liberation of Britney.
Yeah, all we could do is wait and see how this thing unfolds.
Absolutely.
It's crazy to think that her kids now are like 14 and 15.
Yeah.
Even and all this, like all that, paparazzi, whatever, exploded when they were babies, and there was that infamous photo of like her driving with the kid in her lap, and now they're like in high school, pretty much.
That's crazy.
It's been that long.
So much time has passed, and I just think back to kind of where her career fell off, if you will, or went left. And I just think it was, and this is maybe why people were like Justin blaming. It definitely, at some point, yes, she was in, you saw her smiling at the paparazzi. You saw her kind of having the fun. But then people turned on her, right? After that whole situation with Justin, the video, came out. There was a story that she cheated on him with a dancer, yada, yada, yada. And the conversation, the language surrounding her turned, right? Everybody thought she was like this perfect pop princess. We all love her. Britney. And then it came to, Britney, that girl. And that's what the tabloids wrote about and everything. And then she sort of got into this place where she was rebellious, right? She rebelled against that whole perfect pop princess. She started hanging out in clubs and, hanging out with Paris and Lindsay and nightlife and all of that world. And soon after, that's when Kevin Federline came into the situation. There was that whole it wasn't a documentary. It was a reality show. Let's call it what it was. It was a reality show called Chaotic, which the name tells you a lot. It was very chaotic in that time and a little bit messy. Let's be real. I questioned it back then too. That whole situation, the relationship, messy. And then soon after that is when her and Kevin split up. Things erupted again. People were in her business constantly, on top of her, constantly paparazzi in her face, yelling things at her, flashbulbs, always being there everywhere she went. And so that downfall, that turn after the whole Justin situation, it really snowballed to become what it is today. And I just hope that eventually at some point she can speak, tell her story through her own voice and triumph over it, to be honest. I mean, free Britney, damn it.
Everybody's saying it. Free Britney till it's backwards. Freer. Noble Citizens fam, thanks again for joining us for another one. We always appreciate it.
Remember to follow us on IG and Twitter at Noble Citizens PC. Search Noble Citizens Podcast on Facebook. You can also follow me on IG at _JAEDE_.
You can follow me on the IG at ProBound. That's pro.bound. And if you have an opinion, let us know in our social medias what you think of this Britney situation. Stay tuned for the next one. There's a noble thing to do.
Free Britney!